Hey guys, Dan Saavedra here from mergerdata.com, and today I'm going to talk to you about something that I've been seeing in a lot of our client accounts at mergerdata.com. Inside of HubSpot, people are misusing lifecycle stages and ignoring lead statuses, and it's causing a lot of problems for the organization, especially as they grow and scale. The more and more contacts and deals that they're dealing with, the more issues are popping up. And so this quick video is just going to show you why you must use both lifecycle stages and lead statuses at the same time. And so if you've set up lifecycle stages in the way I'm about to show you, you're not supposed to set it up, then I would definitely suggest reevaluating because it's just going to cause a lot of problems down the line. And so there's a blog article out just summarizing all of this right here. But I'm going to walk through real quick, and then I'm going to just map out exactly what you should be doing instead. So overall, lifecycle stages can't move backwards in HubSpot. So that means if you set up lifecycle stages and at the end of those lifecycle stages, you have things like disqualified or ghosted, that shouldn't be set up that way because you can't ever move backwards on lifecycle stages. Yes, you can clear the property value and then you can set it to customer or whatever other lifecycle stage they then moved backwards into, but you're causing a lot of problems by doing that. So you can't do that. You have to instead use the lead status with the lifecycle stage. And basically, this summary right here is going to tell you why. Lifecycle stages are the furthest someone has traveled on the linear customer journey, while lead statuses are non-linear steps that happen at the same time a contact is moving through the customer journey. So if the customer journey is viewed linearly, which obviously it's not, then you have to give some wiggle room for people to move backwards or maybe stick in a spot and change their actual status around where they are at in the customer journey. And so that's why you have to use two at the same time. The customer journey is supposed to tell you how far, the furthest that someone has gotten, while lead statuses tell you more about the current state of who they are. And so you have to use those together. If you just use lifecycle stages and try to put in stuff like ghosted, then clearly people can ghost you and then contact you again, and then HubSpot's not going to let you move it backwards. And they're trying to enforce this philosophy of using both of these properties to accurately depict the customer journey. And so a few of the things that we've seen, and you can see it in this article here, is that let's say a customer is supposed to unenroll from certain marketing and sales sequences when they're marked as a customer, and they've set up the workflows to where if a deal is closed won, it changes the lifecycle stage to customer. Well, it'll fail because you can't move the customer or the contact backwards if they were disqualified before. And so what ends up happening is they stay in that lifecycle stage called disqualified. You're expecting them to be marked a customer, and they're still getting all of your marketing and email or marketing and sales contact, which is annoying. And then on top of that, if you have onboarding connected to someone being updated to a customer, now you have even more problems because none of that's being triggered. And so that's something we've seen a lot of with high volume HubSpot instances. Sometimes, 5% of entire customer bases at one point were either unqualified or had went cold for some reason. And so you got to make sure that you can account for those because that's a pretty significant portion of revenue that you're either missing out on or just ruining in general the customer relationship. And then on top of that, your reporting is just bad because your customer count will be off because people won't be marked as a customer correctly. And then channel attribution is messed up because you're not seeing those people convert into a customer. And so yes, like there's ways to work around that, but it's a ton of effort and you still might not be getting to the right answer. So the example that I have on this page is that usually what you should be doing is a prospect comes in and they're set to subscriber as a lifecycle stage and the lead status is new. And then let's say they are disqualified based on a form fill. They're not your ICP, whatever. What it should change to is lead because they filled out a form. And then the lead status should be updated to unqualified. Now, if we go to an example of how a lot of companies incorrectly do it, They come in the same life cycle stage and lead status as above, but instead they're being moved to something like disqualified. And then the lead status is also updated to unqualified, disqualified, or it's kept in new. And so that's wrong. It's going to cause a bunch of issues. And so don't set it up like this, where you have opportunity, customer, other. Sometimes you have evangelist. You can customize the linear journey, but then you don't put disqualified, ghosted, and no-show at the end of that. That's wrong. It's going to cause tons of problems. 8 through 10 should be lead statuses, not life cycle stages, it says right here. So overall, that's the general premise. Now I'm going to show you visually exactly what I mean from that explanation. And so if I put out this line here, this represents the life cycle stages. And it's a linear journey. And obviously the customer journey isn't perfectly like that. Like, yes, you'll have some people who follow the exact path that you want them to follow. They'll hit each funnel step that you've set up. They'll do it in the perfect time and respond to all of your messages. But in reality, that's not how most people buy. And so life cycle stages track how far they get in that linear journey. And so if you have it set up with the default HubSpot life cycle stages, they come in as a subscriber or a lead, depending on what form they submitted. And then they end up as a customer. And then obviously beyond that, you have your other options like other or evangelist, right? And so even these get a little bit shady in my opinion, and I would just use different properties, evangelist and other, but that's just a personal preference. So let's say someone moves along this path, and for the most part, you're gonna have a pretty linear journey when it goes from subscriber/lead to an MQL, if you use that, and then to an SQL. If it's a sales qualified lead, then that's the furthest they've gotten. They're already qualified. If they're unqualified, then they'll stop in MQL because maybe they did some marketing qualified activities, but when it came down to it, when sales talked to them, then they weren't actually a good fit for the company. And so they stay in MQL for whatever reason. And so usually the stopping point is SQL, where things get a little bit more non-linear, I guess you would say. So if you're using like the HubSpot typical lead status values, then I'm going to read them off here because it's easier. You have in progress, open deal, unqualified, which shouldn't have happened in SQL, should happen in MQL, but depending on what you have set up there, might be relevant. You have attempted to contact, connected, bad timing. When you're in SQL, you can literally be any of those, and you can move back and forth. So you wouldn't want to use any of those as a lifecycle stage because it can be bad timing, but you don't want to move them further past customer into a bad timing lifecycle stage because you know that eventually they'll come back around, or maybe they won't, but you use the lead status to indicate that. So lead status oftentimes will follow right alongside your lifecycle stage, and then you'll get to SQL and the linear customer journey stops right here. But then you have this like loop of lead statuses. Hope you like my loop there. And so you'll have in there, you'll have your open deal, and then you might lose it. And so you don't have an open deal anymore. And so this lead status would be updated to like bad timing. And then they reach back out or show some type of interest again somehow. And then you can have either open or in progress. And so you can see how lead status shows activity still, and lifecycle stage doesn't change. And so the reason why that's important too is because you're going to want to measure how long a lot of customers are sticking in certain stages so that you can kind of estimate what your pipeline is going to look like, what your revenue is going to look like. If it turns out that 75% of your best customers were stuck in SQL for over a year and a half, then you might stop someone from just discarding contact information if they haven't been active in over a year. Some B2B pipelines or customer journeys take that long. Like they take a long time to close. And so if you're messing up your life cycle stages, then you're going to be messing up all this opportunity here to close out these longer timeline opportunities where people are kind of moving back and forth between lead statuses. And so hopefully this visualization was useful for you to see like life cycle stages stick along this linear path. It's how far you've gotten. Lead status can be when you're stuck in a certain part of the journey and just kind of looping around. And they can represent, different parts of the life cycle stage, and they can be relevant to multiple stages there. So you can have open deals in an MQL or SQL customer journey stage. If you have an opportunity one as well, you can have an open deal that then turns into bad timing. And then if they come back around, then you have another open deal. And so ultimately you can see how far people get in your life cycle of the customer journey and kind of determine, okay, maybe we should optimize these parts of it. So that's why you got to keep these separate. Lead status should be used for things that are iterative. Lifecycle stages are how far you've gotten on the linear customer journey so that you can optimize everything on each stage. So hopefully that helps. This is something that's been a really big issue for a lot of companies that we've worked with, just because it takes quite a while to unwind and make sure that you're fixing this in the correct way so you're not ruining a bunch of data or losing a bunch of data. And then also you can't just like mass update things, because sometimes you'll trigger 5 to 10% of their existing customers who were not marked as a customer before. You'll trigger them to enroll in a bunch of workflows that they should have gotten when they immediately became a customer. And so that can cause a lot of problems too. So yeah, hopefully this was valuable. If you have any questions, book a strategy call. I take them so I can answer any questions for you if you have concerns around this. It's on our website, mergerdata.com. In the top, there's a button there. So thanks for watching.